Hit and go live.
And that's it. I think we're live in the studio, as they say. Maybe that, Karyn, I think that might be our opening, as we seem to be starting our shows that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
And we're off. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Welcome to another episode of Quality Perks with BPA. My name is Neal Eggers, and as always, we have Karyn Dupree, and we're joined today by David Blackwell, President and one of the founders of BPA. Welcome, David.
How are you today? You two?
We're all right.
Fantastic.
We have more coffee on the way, so as usual, we'll start out. Karyn, you had a mission from last week, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So I went and got some coffee. I got myself some ground coffee, and it's called Coffee Before Talkie. And so I went to go use it, make some coffee this morning, and I just got a new Keurig for Christmas. And I didn't realize it didn't have my little K-cup in there. So I'm not able to make it that one today. So I did already have some Pete's. Not Pete from the UK, but it's called Pete's. But it's a light roast coffee that is light, sweet suggestions of passion flower and stone fruit. Now, let me tell you about my machine here. Since this is a Keurig type of K-cup, it comes with a little scanner there. Well, when I pop this in to my machine, it actually asked me, would you like to brew it based on how it should be brewed according to Pete's coffee? I said, yeah, sure. Why not? Oh my gosh.
This is an app-based. This is an app-based coffee machine.
Exactly. I could actually, if I wanted to, set it up and just have a cup there, and I could sit at my desk and click on make myself a coffee, and I could choose how hot I want it, how strong I want it, how much I want, if I want a 12 ounce, what have you. But
we've come a long way.
It's amazing.
David, what is in your mug this morning?
Well, I'm afraid it's not coffee. It's actually tea. It's Mumbai chai today. So I find that's really good in the morning for waking you up. It's a nice strong tea. I like coffee, but I'm more into coffee perhaps once I get through the morning, the sort of halfway through the morning. But I like tea first thing. I like that. My wife's grandmother always used to say there's two ways of making tea, the wrong way and the right way. And so the right way
is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the right way is with boiling water. It has to be boiling. It can't be just warm or hot. It's got to be boiling water, and you've got to allow it to kind of, sort of brew for a while before you actually touch the stuff. So there you go.
Now, last week we talked about coffee consumption throughout the day. So you'll have tea, and about how many cups of caffeinated either tea or coffee will you have throughout the average day?
Probably about 3 or 4, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the evening, I'll be bouncing off the walls usually, so.
Right. Yeah. I guess I've had so much coffee that I could probably have a cup of coffee at 6, 7 o'clock and it wouldn't keep me up. Once 9 o'clock hits, everyone makes fun of me. I go to bed early. That's the way it works.
Okay.
I've got, I've got Jackhammer coffee today from Independence Coffee Company. So it's from Texas. So that's very good. I like it. Out of my father's coffee mug.
Okay.
I was given those.
So
that's enough coffee talk for today, I think.
I said, does your father know that you've got his coffee mug?
He did actually. So my brother and I, we both have these coffee cups that have been in the family forever, and they've been handed down to generation to generation. So it's nice to have something from our childhood.
Okay.
So our theme for today is what is contact center or call center quality monitoring? We wanted to kind of pose that question today as we continue our series of really discussing all things contact center. So those of you who are new to our new series here, what we're attempting to do is kind of take a journey through quality monitoring, contact center quality monitoring, and the different avenues that it can be used to support the agents, look at proactive business intelligence, and more importantly, kind of shine a light on the importance of it, and when used correctly, what it can do to impact not only agent behaviors and supervisor capabilities, but also finding opportunities for success in the contact center that aren't always readily available on a contact center form. So that's really what we're here to talk about today, and ask David to join us to kind of share his thoughts on contact center quality monitoring. So David, we'll pose that question to you first and start our conversation from there as to over your years and working in contact centers and of course with BPA as a founder and president. What are your thoughts on contact center quality monitoring and where it fits in the world today?
Well, I guess if we were to be completely accurate, as if we were writing a description for a dictionary, I think quality monitoring is just the act of actually listening to a call, and perhaps you could extend it to actually providing a score to that call. But obviously, the idea of quality, if we talk about quality monitoring in a broader sense, it's all about improving the customer experience, improving the way that the agent interacts with the client, and so on. Many years ago, when we were first setting up BPA, we started as a training company, and we were sort of going to people and saying, we can change the world for you. And so pretty soon we realized a couple of things. Number one, that the things that we were training, there was no evidence that actually resulted in any different to the customer. We saying be polite, and so like and stuff like that. And so the first thing that occurred to us was really we needed to get some evidence of what influenced the customer in any interaction, and we started going down that route by starting some research into that. And the second thing we kind of occurred to us is if you train people, it's not just enough to train them. It's a bit like a football team. They need constant feedback on their performance. So the whole idea of quality monitoring in our book is actually, helping people improve what they do. And quite often when we get initially contacted by a client, they kind of think that what they're doing perhaps is outsourcing somebody to listen to their calls, which is what we're doing, but it's really only a means to an end. The real purpose of what we're doing is the idea that we can improve the customer experience. The second thing that I think is really interesting, when we started all this, I went to see a client one day, and there's like a contact center with about 500 people in it, and we're in this guy's office, and I said, how can we help you? And he said, come with me. And he took me out, and we weaved our way through all these massive people, and there's a guy just sitting there, and he said, did you see him? And I said, yeah. And he said, that's Robert Brown. He said, I want you to get everybody else in the place to do what he does, because he seems to have this way of interacting with the customers, or that it's just unique. He manages to get better sales, happier people. His calls are quicker than most other people. He said, I don't understand it. I want everybody to do what he does. So in a nutshell, I guess quality monitoring is two things. It's actually helping people to improve. And then for us, it's really understanding how you do that. How do you make everybody into a Robert Brown, if you want, and it's certainly not by scripting. It's more about the outcome of the call. What does Robert Brown do that produces an amazing outcome to the call? And that's been our quest now for a number of years. And I can't remember, the Greek philosopher said, the definition of wisdom is knowing that you don't know everything. And I think we've always, our mission as a company has always been to understand more and more and more about how we can help people improve what they do, and how we can, make the customer experience more. That's a long-winded answer to your question. So
it's interesting. I was just thinking about, with these conversations that we've had over the years, and that particular agent, and how do you make an entire contact center full of individuals exhibit the same type of successful behaviors that a group of agents do. And I think that that's a neat tool, or useful tool. When you can get snippets, you can get different behaviors of examples of those positive behaviors, and then develop them into training material. Because what works for one agent may not necessarily work for another, or what works for one company may not work for another company. But at its core, it's really that outgoing, exceeding customers' expectations, the knowledge that the agent has, and the comfort when they are knowledgeable. One of the things I always talk about is only two things that really change in a contact center agent. And one, that's their knowledge of the product that they're supporting, and the knowledge of the customer, depending on the complexity of the tool. The customer they know they have a problem, but they can't explain it. It's just something's not working. That agent needs to have that comfort in their own knowledge to be able to dig deeper, ask exploratory questions to identify what the problem is. Or in a sales environment, it's being comfortable to ask questions to get to what the customer needs or uses, or what could benefit them moving forward. And that, the example that you gave of that one agent, I bet that's what he did really well. He asked questions. He was able to understand or pull out of the customer what their particular issue was.
I think, I think you're spot on there, Neil. I guess that we all know people, even in our ordinary lives, that are very good at talking to other people, don't we? They kind of got this innate ability to understand where the other person's coming from, and actually relate to it and say the right words at the right time in the right way. And it's a successful agent does that, and but one thing we in all our kind of quest for, how do you get how do you make the perfect call? How do you get to a call where, when the customer gets off it, they think, God, that's amazing. That was really incredible. I quite often call Delta, and they got one question at the end of, in their survey is, if rating this call on a 1 to 5, how would you rate this agent? Would you employ this agent? And I think that's quite an interesting question, because it's all about the outcome of the call. And one of the things that we found on our quest is people try to script people sometimes, and they focus on behaviors and so on. But if you do this, and this, it produce an outcome of call, and to some extent it will. But the thing that's really interesting for me is that the outcome of the call is different by customer. If you talk to a New Yorker, they certainly want a different interaction than you get in Florida, for instance. And the same with different businesses. And I think one of the things that we've arrived at now, after many years, is the more information that we can get on somebody's business, the more likely we are to be able to enable to help our client on that journey. So if we understand as much as we can, it's easier to produce an outcome of the call. And if you, instead of measuring what goes on in the call, if you measure what the outcome is, I think that's a driver. If you can get people off the phone feeling this was an amazing call, or that they bought something off you, that's what we're after. It's not so much how they do it. You can help people do that. You can help people understand how to play the game. But really, the focus is how do you get them to produce that amazing outcome. And so the way you do that, what you listen to, and how you coach people, really is in my opinion, it needs to be focused on that. How do you produce that outcome? And depending on your business, you tailor however you do that to produce the outcome.
Sure. And I think that understanding the customer's business or the totality of how they operate and that quality effectiveness audit that you're referring to, where we can really look at the whole process of what's it like to be an agent, what's it like to be a supervisor, what's it like to be a trainer, what's it like to be a manager and executive at our different customers or prospects, and understanding how their daily business intertwines to producing that outcome. How do they get to that? And understanding all of those little individual parts.
Yeah.
Really is one of the things that you say all the time is quality is not about just checking boxes. It's understanding, right? It's your how you describe it, but it's understanding that totality of a quality process. I hope I'm doing it justice, but it's not just checking boxes.
No. Yeah, I mean, I remember listening to an agent one day, and you know, the company we were working with had this kind of process that when the call came in and the customer said what their problem was, and then the response to that was, I can help you with that, or even better, I can certainly help you with that. But there was one guy I was listening to. I remember a customer called in. He had quite a complex problem, and he gave the agent what the problem was, and the agent responded with saying, "Oh my God, you've got problems there." It really, and another, I think another part of what we do, and I'm always amazed, is that we take people that have got a brilliant personality, and then we try to force them into a box and put words into their mouth, you know, and I think it's how you kind of take someone's personality and actually turn it into something that's amazing and creates a customer experience for you, you know. So, and
right.
and those rules that you play by, you know, that if you do this, it's better than doing this, and you know, and you know, one of our rules has always been, you know, you just focus on what you can do. The customer doesn't want to hear what you can't do. So it's interesting, but yeah.
Ultimately, it's the agent needs to be able to listen, and respond as personalized, in my opinion. And also, it's outside of that script. You know, you putting them in that box like you mentioned, but if you really allow your agent to show their personality and be able to engage with that customer and listen, once you stop and you listen, that's when you're going to find out what is the ultimate issue and be able to solve that issue, and you know, and give a quality customer experience there.
It's interesting, Karyn, you know, there's listening and there's listening, isn't there? I can listen and I can hear what you say, but there's listening and understanding. And I don't mean that, you know, like I quite often observe you, Karyn, when we're working together, you don't say a lot sometimes, but when you say something, it hits the target. And it's really understanding where the other person's coming from, and you do it pretty well. You know, when we're having meetings and that kind of thing, you do that pretty well.
I'm on the other side of the spectrum.
Oh, you're terrible.
Just constantly running my mouth, and most of it misses the mark. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It's listening
sure.
and listening, isn't there? You know. And,
absolutely. It's
so
kind of like what you listen to. You like, I listen to my husband, but then I listen to my husband. If that...
I like that.
Just one more question for you, Mr. Blackwell. So what was the genesis? You touched on it a little bit, but the beginnings of BPA. So, you know, started as a training company, and then you realized that you needed to monitor or validate what you were training to see if the agents stuck with it. But where did the company start? So, you know, obviously Karyn and I know this, but for our viewing audience, what's the quick historical version of the company and why you started it?
Well, first of all, we got together a group of people. At the time, I think there was 3 or 4 of us, and you know, we've all been involved in contact centres, and we'd all observed what you know, the way that contact centres operate and the way they're managed and all that kind of thing. And we thought, we set up a company that's different from other companies. We wanted, to, even from the point of view, we wanted people to enjoy working with us, and we wanted to do all the things that perhaps other companies didn't do. So from a company culture, we spend a lot of time understanding how people in our company work, and operate. And we don't put people in boxes. We don't really have job descriptions. What we do is we use people's abilities in the best way we can. So, if somebody's got some talent in some way, we direct them in that direction. And I mean, at Stream, I remember many years ago, we took on this lady to be a trainer, and she had all the qualifications, but she turned out to be an absolute disaster. But she was great at marketing. She was great with words and written word and things like that. And we channeled her in that direction. And that's our philosophy, really. We want people to enjoy what they do. We're a team. We're a family. We look after each other, and we use each other's talents to best effect. And so, from a company culture point of view, we feel that we've got something unique, and we're lucky, really, because the people that we've got working for us work for a number of years. We've got they don't come and go. They work for us year after year. Our analysts, data journalists, people like that. I mean, Neal, how long have you been with us?
10 years.
Karyn?
I think I'm almost 13.
So, that's pretty typical. We get people join us. They like working with us. They find that they can have a career where they can, within BPA, they can grow, So, but most of all, I think what we get from it is a relationship we build with our clients, because most of our clients are long-term. Again, we get most of our contracts go on for year after year after year. We become part of the culture of their client's company. We're outside. We provide this independent view of what they're doing, but we also provide the expertise to help them move forward. And we become part of their company, but as providing an external view. And I know all our guys get an incredible buzz from actually achieving results for our customers. So, it's not just doing it; it's the results we can achieve for you.
Absolutely. Actionable results.
Yeah.
Well, David, thank you for your time today. Karyn, as always, thank you for your time as well. We'll be back here at this same time next week. We haven't decided which way we're going to go with our next featured guest. We may bring in some of our outcomes teams, data journalists, as David was referring to. We may bring in some of our senior account managers to talk about the relationships that David was just talking about, that we always forge with our customers, so that we do become an integral part of their day-to-day. One of the things we always talk about is that we don't want to be referred to as a third party providing our services. We're a member of their staff. We're that door down the hallway that you pop into and brainstorm and come up with new ideas to move the business forward. So we haven't decided which way we'll go with that, but we'll be back here this time next week. And thanks everyone for your time. And if you have any questions, if you're watching a recorded version of this, please leave some comments or questions, and we can have those answered either by Karyn or myself, or we could bring in David to answer those questions as well. But thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.